Hello. I do not despair that the number of views were very few, and I think that the ideas that will be put forth in this video will compensate for the lack of views of the first video. The important thing that I would like to talk about in this video is the Blue Ocean strategy. The Blue Ocean strategy is, very simply put, a strategy that minimizes the competition with other parties. Hence, the comparison is made between the Blue Ocean strategy, as it is so called, with the other side, which could be called a Red Ocean strategy, which is the typical strategy of many companies indeed. I will not go into more details about the Blue Ocean strategy, but I will explain how I can adapt the Blue Ocean strategy slightly in order to pursue my own line of thinking. So, I have called my idea, and it may sound odd to begin with, the Blue Ocean Civility, and it is a very straightforward but potentially complex idea that could have many ramifications. What I want to do is I want to render my ideas honourable by suggesting that even though the ideas may be contested and widely debated, or even debated in a very small circle, the actual potential for the ideas to be successful is one, it could be very successful, but two, it could be completely shut down, which almost implies a semi-paradox. Meaning to say that, particularly with online forum debates, people will suggest that an idea is unworthy, and it may be for two reasons. One, because they feel threatened by the idea, or two, because the idea is no good. And so that almost creates a paradox, because an idea is both good and bad in that sense, but it is mutual and the two are not separated. The two are mutually together, the good and the bad, almost as one single paradox. Although analytically and technically speaking, it may not actually be a paradox, but that's besides the point. So I decided, why not have a symbolic validation system for certain ideas? And particularly relating to the idea that I proposed in my first video about the pouches idea, I think it may be important in the future to have some body or organisation that, would receive some level of funding, maybe from taxpayers and so on and so forth. But in the future age where intellectual property is defined differently, or shall we say redefined, we may need to scientifically evaluate and scientifically register in our minds and in our information communications exactly what a Blue Ocean strategy will look like in a future where everything will be hotly contested in the new information age. I would like to say that when something, as I've already said, when something is posted on an internet forum, things will be debated quite hotly. The organisation that I propose, which would endorse Blue Ocean Civility, would take many of these ideas, and in fact new ideas that people would propose on their online forums or in different events, but I think more realistically it would have to be registered as existing online, not by registration, but simply the virtue of its existing, and so we register it. And this information would be collected. Then, what we say is that an idea, if it is debated very strongly, it then has the symbolic validation of being a Blue Ocean idea, that is, that it would be non-competitive by the virtue of it being very contested. It may appear as a bad idea, it may appear as a good idea, but at the end of it, it will still be validated due to the process of reduction or deduction after the debate has taken place. So, you raise an idea, it's debated and thrown away, you have a minority that support it, hence it could be a good or a bad idea, but but regardless of that, it is validated as a Blue Ocean strategy for statistical purposes in a new economic system. The scope of the economic system could potentially be large, but that is not really the debate as it stands at the moment. That is merely the concept. So, obviously there are many issues that may come up in relation to this, such as how do we vet the whole thing for bad ideas that could be potentially harmful. Obviously, yes, these ideas would have to be filtered out. I suspect that intellectual property is the main key ingredient of this proposal, because people need to take pride in their ideas, and people of different income levels need to be able to take risks on their ideas as well in order to stimulate the economy. Quite simply, if it were a stock market of sorts and people were to invest in ideas by individuals in different circles, whether these ideas may be successful or not, then that would aid the economic benefit of it. A person may put forward his idea into action, and the idea may not be successful, but the intellectual property of that idea still exists on a database. And so a new emerging concept here of intellectual property as defined by a database, and not everything that is legally stored and would occupy the database under privacy and protection terms and so on and so forth. So it would be one and not the other as a new definition. I also think that it is interesting to note that when a company or a corporation folds, usually it is no more, or it is resurrected as some other entity. Obviously, an individual within his own home, a person cannot do that, so he or she may invest in an idea. It may mean nothing in the end, but the individual and the household usually doesn't fold. Obviously, this isn't true in all cases, but it does show that the way that intellectual property works on the upper and lower levels there is a disparity. Now, obviously, different companies could also endorse certain ideas as well. It is not the prospect of these ideas necessarily being successful, as said, it is more that they will have intellectual value as intellectual property. And so it is an honourable thing because people want honour for their ideas. Is there anything else I can add? Yes. Let's take, for example, an iPhone which costs £1,000 now. Could it not cost less? Well, actually, in a certain way, it is actually the intellectual rights and ownership of the individuals who make up the company and the manufacturing process and all of the company ties and so on and so forth in that chain that determines the price of the item. Or so I think. If the item were less, people would spend their money on something else or save their money. This obviously would relate to a wider point that I could make later. As a tool for determining the amount of expenditure worldwide that would be required for certain novel concepts or even concepts relating to conservation and other areas that require proactive representation, it would be interesting to see overall if individuals were to put forth their ideas into this database based on their personal experiences and then invest some of their own money and their own time to projects that may or may not succeed, how much the overall total would be for these projects, which would indicate a certain level that would need to be expended worldwide on a global level for various projects of a higher priority such as conservation, which obviously relates to the first video. I also think that if a minor amount of taxes could be put forward to the Blue Ocean Civility organisation, that this would be beneficial. I cannot think of anything to add to this. I think I have sufficiently talked my way through this video. If there is a way that I can clear this up more so than I have explained it, more so than the virtues of my explanation, then I will do so. I think that is all. Thank you for watching.